Welcome to this tutorial on TextNI StPaint Plus. I'm going to start by opening StereoPaint. Here we go. And I'm going to open a picture that I've already been working on. File here, open. That's the one I want, Boat 003. And there it is. I'm just going to adjust the way that this appears in the picture window. And over on the left here are various controls. And we're looking at the moment at a front view. It's a stereo image already, so I can click on left, that's the left image, that's the right image. This is the view in stereo, and I think you can see that this is an anaglyph image. You can see the mast in red and green separated. And here is the depth view. This is how StPaint represents depth. We have red in the foreground, blue in the far background, and various shades between blue and red in between. Okay, I'm going to close that now. So now I'm going to open a 2D version of that boat picture and give you an idea of how that 3D image that we saw before was created. So, File, New. And it's the JPEG I want. There we are. Right, that's the 2D image. Let's just adjust that again. That looks nice. Okay, and our job now is to assign the appropriate colour between red and blue to all parts of the picture. Now, in order to assign depth, we need to have in mind a plan view of the image concerned. And indeed, I make a sketch of the plan, a paper sketch. And here in Windows Photo Viewer is one I made earlier for this picture. It's the boat sketch. Just move that across slightly. Okay, so this line here represents the foreground, in other words, down here. This line here represents the shoreline at the back of this harbour that we're in. This line here represents the top point of the little hill that's behind the harbour, and the back line here represents the far distance and the sky. StPaint uses figures from 255 representing the foreground to 0 representing the background, and you can see that I've arbitrarily decided on 31 as the distance of the shoreline and 15 as the distance of the top of the hills there. How I've arrived at these figures that I've used for the boat, the two boats rather in the foreground, we'll come to later. Okay, so we'll put the sketch away for the time being, and I'll now show you a little bit of the tools which are available over on the left hand side here, and we'll start with the depth pen. That's clicking on that and that, and the size of the pen is determined by this. I can move it up to, let's put it to full size there, and this, the actual depth of it, I'm putting that to 255, and you can see the pen there, and if I pull it across here like that and now look at the depth map, we've got a close to a 255 stripe. Now if I move this down to about there and put another stripe here, you probably see that that is not quite so red. I'll move that down again. It's got a distinctly mauvey sort of look to it. That's for 114. And go down again, and you can see that's moving much more into the blue. So there's a grading from red down to blue as we change the depth there. There are a couple of other pens here. Let's put the depth to 255 again so that you can see exactly what's going on. And now you can see that the middle of the stripe is fully red, but the edges are going trailing off down toward the blue. And there's an even more fuzzy pen here. You see the width of the red part in the center is much less. You can change the width of the pen. Let's do this actually with that. And you can go down to quite narrow sizes. In fact, I could cover the mast. There we are. You have to have a pretty steady hand working with these narrow pens, and in fact what one would probably do is to work in zoom mode, which you get from the view menu. If I can zoom in on the picture, let's do that again. Zoom in. Now it's a little easier to well, as you can see, it requires a steady hand, and I'm not that steady. So that's the depth pen. Now while we're looking at tools, there's another very useful tool I'd like to show you, and that's called depth selection mode. And this is, so you select the depth pen again, but you also select this little chap here, and as you can see, I come across with a little icon which comes to the point of the mouse pointer, and if I click here, it tells me that the depth is 255. Have to click again. Let's try just here, and that's telling me that the depth is 110. We'll try again. Click in this area, and that's telling me that the depth is 56. Now this is a very useful means of finding out the depth at particular points in your picture. We'll come back to using that later. Well, all this looking at depth pen and so on tools has made a real mess of our picture, so I think actually I'm going to close that. No, I don't want to save it. So let's start a new picture. Right, there we are. There's our boat picture. Let's just adjust it. Right, that'll do nicely. And I think we'll also bring back the sketch at the same point. Right, I don't intend to go through all the tools in StPaint. In fact, I'm only going to go through now one more tool, and that's the gradation tool, which is the one that I find most useful. I'm going to leave you to work out how to use all the others for yourselves. Now, the gradation tool is for applying a graduation of depth over an area, and the first one I'm going to do is the water. So what we do is we select the polygon, and that's gradation, and the first thing I want to do is to select the area we're going to deal with. So I click here and here and here, and as you can see I'm leaving a track behind me in little red squares, and I'm now closing the loop. I do a second click there, and you see it's highlighted. That's now closed. This area is now selected. I can adjust the selection. One needs pulling slightly. Let's pull that down there, and this one can be pulled across slightly. It's not responding. Okay, that's best I can do there. That one needs to be pulled up. It's selecting the whole thing. That's not quite what I want to do. Right, I think that's okay now. So now I want to apply depth to this, and I'm going to start here at 255, so depth begin 255, and I'm going to finish here. Let's just bring that sketch back again, and we had 31 as the depth figure there, so depth end I'm going to put to 31. That's it, 31. So now I need to click in this, which is the gradation tool, and I can now draw an arrow. Here it is. I'm drawing the arrow upward, starting at 255 and ending at 31. Ping. That's done. And now if I select the depth view and now click fill, there it is. And the next one that I want to do, I'll just bring the sketch back again, is 31 to 15 on this part at the background. Now I click reset to get rid of that selection, and so I start again here, capturing the hills in the background there. Oops, that's a bit high. Right, that's captured that. Just pull that one down a little bit. That's better. Right, let me just go back and look at the front view. It's slightly easier to see on the front view whether you've got things in the right place or not. Okay, that looks fine. So now I need to set, actually I'm going to leave depth end at 31. And what was the other figure? 15. So I'm going to change that 255 to 15. 18. 15, there we are. So that's, I'm going to begin at 15 and move to 31. So again, click in the tool, and I can go, there's the arrow drawing down. There we are, that's done. So looking at depth again and clicking fill to do it, yes, you can see that that's gone into place. Right, I can reset that. And now the next thing we want to do is these boats. Now, in order to do the boats, we need to know actually how far they are away. And now that we've got this nicely graduated, we can now use the depth measuring device that we looked at earlier. Here we are, and I can click here on the bows of the second boat, and that is telling me that the depth at that point is 42. Let's just have a quick, well, last time I measured it, it was 43. That's close enough. So let's now have a look at these 2 points here. Get this tool back again. There we are. And that's saying 53. Yep, 53. And let's try again in the stern here. And that's telling me 56. Well, 57 last time, fair enough. So, we now have some depth figures to play with here. Now, I want to capture this, but I think that this part of the picture is in need of blowing up slightly. So, let's zoom in. That's using zoom in the view menu. That's quite nice. I can now see what I'm doing. So the first thing we need to do is go back to the polygon tool and gradation, and let's just capture this first. I'm going to do the boat that's further away first of all. So click. I think it would be easier to view this in front. Let's do that, that's better. So there's bits of detail here that I will need to go back and look at later. Now I'm going to have to guess where the hull of that boat is. It's behind the foreground boat, but that doesn't matter because I'm going to be doing the foreground boat again, and that will cover this up. So that looks like I've captured that boat. Okay, now let's just go back to the sketch again. Starting at 43, I can't see this point on the waterline. I'm going to assume it's 45, which is probably consistent, a depth of 2 for a boat that's slewed toward us slightly. So I'm going to go from 43 to 45. So depths begin, whoops, too far. 44 is probably good enough. 44 to 46, that will do. So now I click on that tool, and I'm just going to take from the bow to the stern. There goes the arrow. Ping, that's done. So let's see the depth map again and fill. Yeah, that's changed. And so let's reset that. And now we're going to do the boat in the foreground. So let's look at front again. Just make sure that's done, yes, right, so here we go, and capture this. And by doing this I will be covering up some of the part that I just did for the other boat, but not the parts that we need to keep of that. I think this is on board this boat, yeah, it's a self-steering device or something. Here we go. Right, that's selected. Just a quick check again. Now we measured 53 and 57, so I now need to set these to, whoops, too far. Oh, 54, that's probably close enough. I won't get any closer than that. Fifty, 54 to 57, that'll do nicely. So I click in the gradation tool again, and now here goes the arrow. There we are. And take depth and fill. Yep, that's done it. Right, now the next thing I'm going to do is the mast. Let's just reset, get rid of that. Now the mast is interesting because it's all at the same distance, excepting that the boom is also involved and the tail end of that is closer to us. So again, using the polygon and gradation tool is worthwhile here. I will also try and capture the spreaders because those are quite a bold feature. Okay, let's just have another quick look at the sketch. 53, 54 to 57 I assumed for the hull, and the mast position I guessed at around 55 because it's set back slightly from the point that we can see on the hull here, but it's obviously going to be a little bit closer than the bow, so 55 seems a good figure to use. For the tip of the boom I'm probably going to take 57 again as it's closer to. So let's start capturing. I could use a much higher zoom level here, but for the purposes of this demo this will do. I'm trying very hard to close this at the moment and it doesn't want to know. That's it, it's closed. Good. So going back now, I said 55 to 57, so I need to slightly adjust this. Oop, too far. I may find it's impossible to select 55 because these sliders are very coarse, unfortunately. I'm going to have to go with 54 to 57. Right, okay, click in there again to select the tool, and this time the arrow goes across this way to give depth from the mast to the end of the boom. Okay, so fill, yeah, that's done. Right, I think for the purposes of this demonstration I'm going to leave it at that. Let's reset that and let's look at the stereo image. I think you can see that there's slight traces of red and green here, indicating that the anaglyph image is now showing some depth, and I'm going to put my anaglyph glasses on and check that. Yeah, that looks quite good, both for the two boat hulls and also for the water, which are the bits we've done. The depth is not great. I think first of all we'll just go back to fully zoomed out. That's not quite fully zoomed out. There we are, it's gone a bit too far. Zoom in, can I get anywhere close? That's closer. Let's not worry too much, that'll do for these purposes. Now, the depth wasn't as great as I wanted, so let's look at the stereoscopic settings and the layer depth setup. You can use this to increase the depth, and I've found that using 100 on the layer depth width and 250 on the layer depth position, it gives a good result. I should also say that just looking at the stereoscopic vision parameters, these need to be 650 and 65, but those are already set to that. Now you can see that the depth is greater just from the fact that the green and red anaglyph images of the mast are much more separated. I'm now looking at that, and that has quite a good depth to it. When I look, I'm seeing the boat in the foreground looking reasonably convincing, the boat behind it looking okay except that its masts are still in the far distance, and all the boats in the mid to far distant need to be brought forward. There's a lot of work still left to be done on this picture, but this will serve as a demonstration, and the rest of the picture you can do yourselves. To complete the picture, it will need cropping to get rid of this red border here, and there will be a a green one on this side, to get rid of those. And also it will need adjusting to the window, and you will need to save the picture and then take it into Stereo Photo Maker to make those adjustments. Okay, that's it. Thank you very much.